Off the top, who kind of springs to mind? If somebody said, who have you played with? Who kind of springs to mind off the top of your head? Just give us a few names.
There are favourites of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there is always a core few people that I mention, and they're people that I grew up listening to in particular. So people like Chaka Khan, George Benson, another one, Smokey Robinson was great. But probably, Al Jarreau may well be at the top of the list because... Again, I've got every one of his albums, and I used to listen to him all the time. I used to work at all the bass parts. So if someone would have said to me back then, "You're going to get to play with this guy," you just wouldn't.
Pinching yourself to
wake exactly.
up. Yeah.
So they're all the people that I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
Which was particularly that genre of music.
And was that when you were young? Who were you listening to?
Well, the thing
what was your influences?
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I got two older brothers, and they both played guitar in their house. They weren't professional, but they just did it for a hobby. So they had albums that I know there was a couple of Cream albums. There was some Hendrix there. There was a Monkeys album as well. But then my dad had a couple of Peggy Lee albums.
Okay, yeah.
And even the Sound of Music soundtrack was there.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of Joni Mitchell. So there's all this stuff in the house, and Glenn Miller as well. I remember hearing Glenn Miller a lot. So there was quite a lot of stuff going on there, but of course,
were you the younger brother?
Yeah. My two brothers are 11 and 8 years older than I am, so it's quite a big deal. So I was the one that was swiping their records.
You were checking out them playing guitar and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, even though I didn't aspire to be a musician or to play an instrument, I guess subconsciously, being in that environment where two of your brothers are playing a musical instrument, it must have had
a subliminal effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Because all my other friends, all their siblings, there was none of them played music. I don't remember hearing music in anyone else's house or any instruments. But so even though I didn't have this burning desire to do what they were doing, I think it was always there.
It was just there. Yeah,
and it just happened further along the line.
And did you start playing guitar first?
No, not at all. I mean, I had a go of it, but there's too many strings. It's way too many strings, and they all felt like cheese wire. It felt really uncomfortable. I didn't.
Dave is a big guy. How tall are you, Dave?
6'3".
Yeah, 6'3". Yeah.
Well, it's ironic because now I've got like an Anthony Jackson Federa 6-string bass,
Yeah,
but at the time it just seemed to be quite daunting. But it was the feel of it. It was just those guitar strings didn't feel good under my hands.
It didn't feel natural. Yeah. So how did you end up on the bass?
Well, the thing is, I sang in a choir. That was my earliest thing. I sang in the school choir, and then a church choir for a long time. I was in a church choir for 8 years. So music was really important. So I was singing it way before I played it. But when I went to secondary school, I decided I really want to play an instrument, and I like the idea of the trombone for whatever reason. I don't know. Actually, I started off, I wanted to play the saxophone because it was the cool instrument.
Very cool, yeah.
Everybody played it on top of the pops. It looked really groovy. But went to this school parents' evening where all the sixth formers were playing stuff. And everyone was playing flutes and oboes. And I'm thinking, this isn't going to happen for me. I don't like the look of this. But then there was no saxophone anywhere. So all of a sudden I saw a trombone in the case and I just thought, what is that?
Yeah.
What is going on there? I just loved the fact they didn't have valves and keys and stuff. It was just such a weird looking thing. I thought, that's it.
That's it, yeah.
But then unfortunately, somebody else had already picked it and they'd given it to him. So I got given a euphonium and I'm thinking, hang on a minute.
Did you start on? That's definitely not cool.
No, exactly.
Sorry, euphonium players.
Yeah, exactly. So I played it for a couple of months and then I completely packed it and I just thought, you know what, the gods are not with me on this. This isn't working out. So I didn't bother after that, and I didn't even take music as an academic subject.
Really?
Because I just thought, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And also I started to become good at sport. I was actually always good at sport as a kid, but this was becoming more important to me.
Yeah.
So the only time I ever got an A in my school report was for phys ed. The only time I ever saw one. So music just disappeared. The idea of playing an instrument or anything like that. And it wasn't until I was 14 and I just thought, I'm really struggling at school here. This isn't at all working out.
Yeah.
And so I realised if you took up the trombone, which is an instrument that I like the idea of.
Yeah.
On a Thursday afternoon, the trombone teacher comes along and you get to miss double physics.
Oh, fantastic!
So that was my main reason. It was my hatred of physics that pushed me
that led you to the trombone.
Yeah, and so I took up that, and I couldn't really read music that well, but from that first day, something happened. Me and the trombone just clicked.
Yeah.
And me and reading music just clicked, and then I just took up the bass because the school band needed a bass player. And I was feeling quite cocky at this point. I thought,
got some trombone chops together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bass clef.
Yeah, well, in fact, I could read music. Yeah, and I was having to read 4 clefs on the trombone.
Wow.
Because you play, especially in an orchestra.
Yeah, it goes right up.
Yeah, you're playing tenor alto clef, and if you're brass band, you're playing treble clef. So this was easy. So So my brother came to town with me in Wolverhampton to pick up a bass and started that, and I thought that was great fun. And then my trombone teacher said, if you learn to play double bass as well, if you decide to do this for a living, you'll get a lot more work.
Yeah.
If you play both instruments. And it was the best advice I think anyone has ever given to me.
Really fantastic.
Yeah. I just hope.
How old are you at this point?
So I took up the trombone. I took up the trombone at 14. I took up bass guitar and double bass about when I was 15. So I was still at school. But I was self-taught as a bass player. I didn't have any lessons to begin with. I just bought a load of those Carol Kay bassline books.
Were you just sort of like reading out the Carol Kay books and obviously like listening to records?
Oh yeah. But at the time,
and
the stuff I really loved was all that two-tone stuff, all things like the specials and selector, and that was pretty cool because Rico Rodriguez, the famous Jamaican Jamaican reggae and ska trombonist, was in those bands. Yeah. And later on he joined Jools'. So he joined Jools' band. So it was great that he was an influence on me on the trombone. Yeah. But just that whole music, I loved that two-tone stuff. You know.
And when did you decide that music was going to be for you?
I think it decided it for me. It wasn't my idea. Again, when I left school, I never thought for a second that that this was going to be a job,
a career.
I was doing.
What were you going to do?
I don't know.
No idea.
No, I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't that great academic at school, so I left school with no qualifications. I was always a good athlete, and I love basketball. I still do to this day.
Really? Yeah.
I'm a big San Antonio Spurs fan. Watch it all the time.
Oh,
so I was hoping that I was going to try and get something to do with sports, but then again, because I'd had no qualifications, so I didn't even know how you would do that. Say if you wanted to be a sports teacher or anything like that.
Yeah. You obviously needed the qualifications to do that.
Exactly. And so the truth of it is, I didn't have a clue. I was just completely bewildered of what was going on.
Yeah.
And it was my trombone teacher that started to. He said, I can get you work. And at the time, there was a shortage there wasn't many bass players around. Yeah. Like now, they're everywhere. Yeah. They're coming out the woodwork. But at that time, they really weren't. And there were fewer bass players around that could read, that could play both instruments, that could improvise.
So when you started playing professionally and getting gigs, it was on the bass?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I did some stuff on the trombone. I mean, I was in bands. I mean, I played in like a band doing Earth, Wind and Fire type stuff.
Oh, fantastic.
And I was in the horn section of that.
Yeah.
It was original stuff, but it was of that type of music. Yeah. And so I was definitely earning money as a trombone player, but it was just small bits. But then it was when my trombone teacher said, listen, I can get you a lot of work as a bass player. Every band needs a bass player, not every band needs a trombone.
And what kind of gigs did you start doing?
Well, the thing is that a lot of it was, there was theatre work. I did a lot of theatre work.
Were you like 16, 17 at this point? Yeah, straight out of school,
Yeah, exactly. And but I did I got called to do some radio sessions, some TV jingles, a couple of TV adverts and things like that. And because I grew up in the West Midlands, so there was the Pebble Mill. TV show, And I used to do a lot of gigs at the Birmingham Repertory Theatre and stuff. So it was. I didn't really play in bands as such. Yeah. I think because I could read so well, people were calling me more for that. The fact I could double and I could read, so I wasn't playing.
So you didn't kind of work your way up. You actually sort of like slotted right in.
I'm working my way down now. Actually,
you started working pro on TV and theatre and stuff like that straight away.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic!
Exactly that.
And that was in obviously the Midlands near Birmingham. When did you decide to move to London?
Well, the thing is, in between that, I used to do a lot of work on cruise ships, and that was a lot of fun. And apart from, I mean, it was just a great life experience.
Yeah, me too.
I was getting to work with a lot of great players, but it was just seeing the world. Yeah, and I couldn't believe you go on those ships and your mind just does that.
Yeah,
it's just.
Totally taken out of your comfort zone at home, and
And it was just the best thing. And for me, those couple of years I did on the cruise ships, that was like almost my university. Yeah. Because one, I was playing with all these great players, but two, one of the first trips I did was on the QE2, and I was 10 weeks on the QE2, and we did Southampton to New York, backwards and forwards. And I'd always wanted to go to America my whole life. So this was in '84, so I was 20 at this point. Yeah. So I went to New York, went to all the music shops, went to Manny's, got my first fake book. And they were called fake books then, not real books.
We were talking to Phil Mulford yesterday, who was on the QE2, and he said he got his first fake book on that trip. He said he got to New York.
And I remember going, and there's a jazz saxophonist called Julian Arguellius. And Julian was in the same band as me, and we went there to Manny's together to get our fake books. And you couldn't even buy them over the counter; they had to put him in a brown paper bag.
Yeah. Phil said he paid somebody, said he disappeared and came back with a fake book.
It was bizarre.
That felt 48th Street, right? that right? Yeah.
I can't remember, but yeah, I don't think he's there anymore. But yeah, and it was the best thing. And we tried to find any jazz clubs we could find and record shops, and we were just buying. Had
you just fallen in love with the entire industry at this point? Were you just like, this is me?
Oh yeah, I just thought we're done now. This is I'm going to stick.
I've come home. Yeah.
So I did about 3 other cruise ships. Again, we travelled all over the world. And one of the best experiences I had it was called the Cunard Princess, and this was in '86.
Yeah.
And they had a jazz cruise come on there, and it meant that we didn't have to work. We had the week off, while all of these fantastic sort of world acclaimed jazz musicians came on there, and all we had to do was to sit and watch and listen. And we had Freddie Hubbard came on there.
Wow.
Larry Coryell came on. George Shearing came on. Ramsey Lewis came on.
Oh, fantastic.
And check this out. And I've actually got photographs to prove it because I took some pictures.
Yeah.
Ramsey Lewis had, so him on piano, drums, and he had a bass player. And the bass player was a very, very young Bill Dickens.
You are kidding.
Wow. Bill the Buddha Dickens.
Bill the Buddha Dickens, yeah. He's still knocking around now. He lives in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. But he's got a Ken Smith. I think it was like an Anthony Jackson model. It was the Ken Smith with where the control plate is brass.
Yeah, it's on
a
the
big
front,
brass plate and there's loads of switches. And I remember here in 6 string, and I just couldn't believe he was just outrageous. I mean, just all that bebop stuff, and I'm just sitting like 2 feet away from him, you know. And this is all we had to do. And Carmen McRae was on there, and all of these fantastic players, and that for me was. Because I always loved jazz anyway. I always aspired to want to play that more than anything else.
What were you when you were on the ships and things like that? Were you practicing it all, or was it just a lot of working, a lot of gigs?
No. Well, there was a couple of us in the band that were more conscientious than the others.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So the others, I think, were just in it for more of a laugh.
Yeah.
Which we would too.
Bit of a booze up.
Yeah. But for me, I always wanted to improve and develop and evolve as a musician, and I still feel like that, and I think a lot of that stems from not being very successful at school. I still have a real issue with that I didn't do better. Because like now, I would love to, if I could go back in time, I'd love to go back to school. And as opposed to be the kid at the back saying, please don't ask me anything, don't pick on me.
You'd be the guy at the front asking all the questions.
And my hand would be up like this, please ask me. Because now I became so studious.
Yeah.
And it's like Jools, the same thing. It's your education begins once you leave school. So that was... So yes, I used to try and practice all the hours ago.
And what guys were you listening to at this point?